Hey, Oscar fans, Sam McKewon along with Tom Shatel for a very special edition of Tom Shatel's Press Pass. We're here on a Wednesday. Scott Frost just talked for the first time about his decision to A, fire 4 assistant coaches, and B, agree to restructure his contract in order to get a 5th year at Nebraska. And Tom, it was an interesting conversation for 15 minutes. Scott was very clear about how much he loves this place and how hard the decision was to let go of his coaches.
Sam, I've seen a lot of things over the years here, and this was different. To me, it feels like the season is over. These type of things, changes happen after the last game, and we got 2 more games left, and we got half a coaching staff. We've got a bunch of players that maybe don't know which end is up and haven't been through anything like this before. It's going to be interesting, as it always is. But I felt like Scott was pretty forthright and everything. And, what we'll never know is whose decision was it. I mean, my hunch is that Trev came in and said, here's what I'm thinking. Here's on the contract, on the coaching staff. What do you think? And those are probably just conversations that happened over the last month. I don't think it just happened, the other day.
Right.
So, but interestingly, it goes. I think it was kind of a group decision, not necessarily Scott's, but who knows?
Yeah, I think Frost and Trev are kind of attached at the hip now. Certainly, he talked about his meetings with Trev Alberts and how he appreciated having the conversations, which was maybe a little line toward Bill Moose, but beyond that he's learned to kind of trust and appreciate Trev's opinion. And he said he gets a lot of opinions. He doesn't necessarily trust a lot of them, but he does trust Trev's. One thing that was really notable and interesting is that it seems like hiring an offensive coordinator that he can trust is maybe the number one priority he's got once these last 2 games are over.
Absolutely. And now we get to see Scott Frost, CEO.
Right.
Can a tiger change his stripes that quickly? Can you really become the guy you aren't overnight? In this case, you have to. When your job's on the line and your future, the place you love to coach is at risk, I think you can do almost anything. So we'll see, but I think you got to stop hiring friends. No more friends. Find a different way to do things. And I think this is an idea that people will probably call crazy, but I think it would be a good idea for him to bring in an old fox, an older coach, to come in and be not the coordinator. You don't have to do that. We're not gonna run a wishbone, but as a consultant, have somebody in the office so he can lean on. Okay, what about this decision? What about this? What about that? And organization, special teams, the things, how to be a CEO. There's no shame in that. I think it would be good. I think it would help him grow. So that's my 2 cents.
Let's get into the particulars really quickly. Obviously, Scott Frost fired 4 guys, and so he's had to kind of elevate 4. One name everybody knows: Ron Brown is going to coach the running backs here for the last 2 games of the season. Offensive line coach will be Frank Verducci. He used to have that role at Iowa. He was the UConn offensive coordinator under Bob Diaco a couple of years ago, and so he's very experienced. Steve Cooper is going to work with the quarterbacks, and Mike Casano is going to work with the wide receivers. Scott was very frank in saying that it was very hard to fire the 4 guys when he did. I feel like he said the team is hurting. It would not be easy to tell a team that during a bye week, knowing you still had 2 weeks left. And he made that comment about Mario Verduzco coming in at 3:45 every morning to coach, to do his job as a Nebraska quarterbacks coach. This is not an easy industry, Tom. No. You've been through a lot of head coach firings, but also the assistant coaches, who we tend to be a little bit closer to sometimes because they're a little bit more down the line. They're not CEOs. This is a tough business, college football.
Yeah, it is, and I've talked to a lot of assistant coaches over the years who were fired, and they understand it's part of the job. It doesn't make it easy. It's the life they chose, and these guys bounce around so much. In the night, I was looking at a couple of the rosters to see where some of the Mike Riley guys ended up, and Danny Langsdorff is the Colorado quarterbacks coach now. Trent Bray's still at Oregon State.
Now coordinating the defense because their coordinator got fired.
Yeah, and then and you've got other guys at other places. It's just that's what they do. They move. My dad was a coach. He was a high school coach. We never moved. We moved enough because he wanted to. He kept changing high schools, but it's the life they have, and it's a funny story. I was talking with Sandy Buda last night he's the press room usher at the CHI Health Center. And I was at the Creighton game, and I ran into Sandy, and he starts talking about the time he was at Kansas State as an assistant, and they fired the head coach with 3 games left, and the AD came into the staff and said, "Okay, here's what we're going to do the last 3 games," and the staff said, "Well, wait a minute, who says we're going to stay?" And the AD got all nervous. "What do you mean? We got to have somebody coaching the team." So they rolled out like a long list of like demands, and they got them all. But these guys don't have big contracts. Some of them do, but some of them don't, and they go from job to job. It's not easy, but again, that's why you don't hire your friends. It's never easy, even if you don't have your friends. But I still see that picture of those guys before every game. When the warm-ups are done, the coaching staff lines up and they have like a big hug.
Yep.
Like a big line where they all hug each other. And I thought when they got here, well, that's kind of cool. It's a coaching staff that is really tight-knit, and I think that's going to work out pretty well. And it didn't, did it? So
yeah, a smaller hug line again at Wisconsin, or they're going to have different guys in the hug line. That's a really good point. All right, well, hey, we're going to have lots of coverage this week, obviously, of the big decision. We'll have coverage of the last 2 games. For Tom Shatel, I'm Sam McKewon with the Omaha World-Herald, HuskerExtra.com, and Omaha.com with Tom Shatel's Press Pass.